Ever since Seiko introduced their affordable GMT movement, I've been waiting for more and more micro brands to get their hands on these movements and see what type of value they can offer. Aquatico is a micro brand, and in today's video we will do a review of their Seastar GMT. This watch comes in a 42mm case diameter. It's almost 50mm from one lug to another. The lug opening is 22mm and the case height is 14.6mm, including the domed sapphire crystal. The case and the bracelet are made out of 316L stainless steel. It features an all satin finish except for a few high polish highlights on the bracelet. The execution of the finish is alright. It's what you would expect from a watch in this $500 price category. There is a crown at the 3 o'clock position. It's a screw down crown featuring Aquatico logo. We also have a screw down case back with a little map of the world, keeping up with that GMT theme. And of course, what type of GMT watch would this be without a GMT style bezel? The bezel action is pretty good. Firm, solid clicks. However, I do have an issue with this bezel, and is the fact that it's a unidirectional bezel. Usually GMT bezels are bidirectional, meaning you can turn them in both directions. This one here is unidirectional. So clearly they had this sort of case construction left over for one of their diver models, and they just integrated it with the GMT without actually changing the architecture and the engineering behind this bezel. Yeah, that's a bit of a negative in my book. On the positive side though, the bezel insert is made out of sapphire and it is a lumed bezel. We'll demonstrate lume in a few minutes here or so. I also like the color combination here between the green gradient on the dial and this sort of black and green combination on the bezel. I think all of that looks great and it looks quite unique. This model also features a domed sapphire crystal with AR coating, and this crystal is actually one of my favorite features of the watch. It creates some very interesting viewing angles. It makes the dial look a lot deeper than it actually is. Big fan of how this effect works, and it actually makes the watch appear almost vintage inspired. Of course, you have a sapphire bezel insert, which is not very vintage inspired, but the crystal and the dial effects, yeah, that looks like it's from 1970s. This model is available in a few different color combinations. The one that we have in front of us is of course this green and black color theme. I think it works really well together. I like the gradient on the dial. If the dial just featured one solid color, I don't think it would look quite as good, and also wouldn't give that domed pronounced feeling to the dial, especially paired with this double domed sapphire crystal. There are pops of red color on the dial. We have the red on the arrow for the GMT hand. We also have 300 meters written in red, and there is a red tip on the seconds hand. Now, as far as the set of hands, I prefer them to be finished with a high polish. I think it would give a good contrast between the brushed finishes on the case and the high polish finishes around the indexes. However, Aquatico decided to go for a brushed look for the set of hands. In my opinion, that was a bit of a mistake. And the other mistake on this dial is the date window at the 4:30 o'clock position. If you know me, you know I'm a stickler for date windows. They either are incorporated well or not. And this one, unfortunately, is not incorporated as well as it could be. I think the window size is just a little bit too small, and it could have been done better. Put it at the 6 o'clock position, put it at the 3 o'clock position. This sort of awkward 4:30 doesn't really work for me personally. The indexes are applied and lumed, and the lume is actually pretty great on this watch. As I mentioned, the dial, the set of hands, and even the bezel are all lumed. The lume application is nice and even, really nothing to complain about. The watch comes with both a stainless steel bracelet and a rubber strap. First, let's talk about the stainless steel bracelet. To be honest, I'm not a big fan of it. There are a few issues that I found. Number one, it doesn't really taper in at all. So it's actually the same thickness all throughout, which is 22mm, which for majority of the wrists will be a little bit too hefty. I wish they did a bracelet that tapers. I think it would make the watch a lot more comfortable on the wrist. The second thing that I'm not a big fan of is this clasp. Nothing really is wrong with the clasp. In fact, we've seen these clasps on so many different watches. You have a couple of pushers to release it, and it's an engineered clasp. You also have this mechanism for diver's extension. you pull these two tabs and you can extend the diver's extension or the micro adjustments. Although it's not very useful because you don't really want to have the clasp sort of extended like this when you wear it on your wrist. So it's only good for the diver's extension. It's not really good to use as micro adjustments on the go. So I think this clasp could definitely be improved. On the positive side, I like the fact that you use screws for resizing. These are not push type pins, and also the screws are actually pretty good quality. You don't feel like you're gonna strip them. I also like the little highlight that you get on the bracelet. It makes the bracelet a little bit more interesting to look at. Now, by far my favorite way to wear this watch was on the rubber strap. It's a simple Tropic rubber, but it gets the job done. I think the watch on the rubber strap just looks better, feels better, and it's a lot more natural. Speaking of wearing the watch, on the rubber strap, as I said, is the way to go. Here it is on my 7¼ wrist. I think overall it wears pretty large. I'd say this one actually wears closer to that 43½, maybe even 44 millimeters. Some watches wear true to their size, some watches wear larger. This one is one of those watches that wears larger. It also has quite a long lug to lug distance, almost 50 millimeters. So do keep that in mind if you have a smaller wrist. On the bracelet, the watch wears pretty well also, but it is a chunky boy. You definitely feel the weight, you definitely feel the heft, even more so than on the rubber strap. And also this crown protrudes quite a bit, so I found that at times it kind of digs into my wrist. This model is powered by the Seiko NH34 automatic movement that beats at 21,600 vibrations per hour. It also has 24 joules and 41 hours of power reserve. Overall, these movements are fairly accurate. I'm getting within 4 seconds per day, which is sort of in line of what you would expect. I think overall this is a pretty solid watch, but it's not a perfect watch. As I said, it wears quite chunky, so you do have to have a wrist presence for it. You also need to have preference for these larger watches. I know there is a segment of the market of the viewers of the channel that love these sort of big over-the-top watches. Well, this is one of them. I think if it was me, I'd probably shrink it down a little bit, make it around 40 millimeters, definitely slim it down, give it 200 meters of water resistance instead of 3, give it a bidirectional bezel, and definitely change the bracelet, or maybe not change the bracelet, put this one on a rubber strap and reduce the price by like 80 bucks or 100 bucks. I think at $400 on a rubber strap or even on the stainless steel bracelet, it's a bargain. At $500, there is a bit of a competition, so you really have to love the design, this look, to go for this one specifically. Overall, I don't think you'll be disappointed with the watch. Just know what you're getting by watching this and other reviews like this. I appreciate you watching this video all the way until the end. If you found it enjoyable, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the YouTube channel for more videos like this in the future, and leave a comment in the comment section below. Let me know what you think about this Aquatico Seastar GMT. Are you picking one up? Are you letting this one go? I always enjoy reading your comments. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.